and welcome to the live. I'm having technical difficulties here, and I was running late anyway and had to postpone. So, if you're here for the live, I'm glad to see you here, and I hope this finds you all well and happy. I am Kat. I am Kat. I am one of the admins on the War at Home. If only someone knew on Facebook page and Guardians War Cry on Facebook page and also on um, the YouTube channel. And I come in to you today to talk to you about language and labels. And I want you to know, and I forgot to post it down below because of how I've been running today. If you're going to be involved in the live, meaning that you're going to comment in the live and chat, that all comments and stuff can be seen. I think you're pretty safe here in watching the live. And if you really want to message me in the back on Facebook, feel free and I will address those. But I just want you all to know that I'm glad you're here. I'm sorry it's a little bit later than it usually is on Tuesdays. Life just got in the way today. And so today I wanted to talk to you about language and labels because it's kind of this thing that I've kind of learned, and I just want to share a little bit with you on how I feel about um, using labels in order to help understand and using labels um, in ways that is not useful to your growth. And what I mean by that is when I was trying to figure out what was wrong with this relationship that I was in, um, I never heard this word narcissism, but you heard a lot about codependency, and uh, this idea that um, narcissism has been around since 1870. So you kind of got to wonder why it hasn't been fully kind of embraced until maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Um, and then it took off like gangbusters, and the people in the mental health didn't kind of know what to do with it because, as one of them put, and I'm not sure which one of them that I'm talking about, but a professional had said it's because narcissism is what governments are made of. And if I look at Biderman's work, which is something that I try to teach on here to try to get people to understand what that uh, coercive control looks like in the behavior of an abusive type person. Because the thing that bothered me the most when I came on the Facebook page was that people were kind of stuck in their anger. And I get being angry. I was very angry. I still am in a lot of ways when I find out about somebody or I see somebody that is being harmed in a way that others don't care about. But I bring this up because Biderman's work was done in 1957, and his work as a social scientist in the Air Force was to talk to the POWs that came back from the Korean War. And when he spoke with them, he found that they had 8 uh, things that were identified from the captors that they did that made them want to collaborate with the people that were holding them hostage. And only 5% of people, the men in that group, didn't um, adhere to those tactics that were used against him. And so that means 95% of men in that group did. He also understood that this also related to domestic violence and abuse. And I wonder what happened between 1957 and well, not 19, but 2013, 2012, that coercive control or this idea of torturing people through mental abuse and psychological abuse, which is what coercive control is. And first time I heard this idea from Dr. Christina Cocciolo was that coercive control is the underpinning of all abuse. So if it's the underpinning of all abuse, then why aren't we talking about it? How come that is like this kept secret? And how come narcissism, the label of narcissism, was like this kept secret? And it's to hold people down and put them in the places that people that are in control want them to be. It is in sexism, it is in racism, it is in corporations, it is in our society, it's in our homes. And I think we should talk about it. I think we should talk about it. I think women should understand coercive control as much, if not more, than men should understand coercive control. And they understand it because they've studied war, because those are the tactics that are used in war. And so I think that it's important for all of us to have this conversation. I sat with some people today and had lunch, and we were talking, and there was this man that was there, this older man, and he agreed with what we were talking about. He's not anybody I know. I just happened to be sitting next to us, and we got into a conversation. And the thing that I found interesting is that really kind person, very open to having conversation. And he understood that as a man, he understood coercive control. He didn't deny it. He understood that it was used to hold people down. He didn't deny it. He understood that men can't speak a lot of times because in their community, they would be held down and humiliated if they brought up their emotions or if they spoke against their own. And I think this is all sad because the people that are suffering are our kids. People that are suffering are women or minorities or people that are in workplaces that want to hold people down. You know, you speak up against somebody in management and you have to have the right people to be able to go to management. If we look at that thing with the billboard kind of thing that happened with the human resource lady that was having the affair with the CEO, and now nobody can complain. And we have to question those things. We have to talk about these things. We have to be open about it, especially if we care about the community that we're living in, about the community that we want to have. That language is important. Labels are important in order to give understanding, but they're not there in order to justify somebody's way of being or to say that this behavior is okay. We need to speak about it in ways to validate people who have survived this. And there's plenty of men that have survived abuse as well as women. We don't know the tallies on men that we know on women. And we don't even know if both of those tallies are correct because people don't speak up and they don't talk about it. It's a hard topic to talk about. It's a hard topic to talk about. But I think it's important. You see, there's a lot of grief in these kinds of relationships, and even in the talk of this. But I came across a small quote, which was, "Tears are the silent language of grief." That's by Voltaire. And I think that's so true. Because when the narcissist, a person that fantasizes about this idealistic relationship they want, or a codependent comes along and has this idealistic idea of what that relationship would be looking like, and the narcissist says it, then it's brought into correlations. This isn't about trying to prove there's anything wrong with the codependent, because they're generally agreeable people, they're generally loving people. But we have to look at ourselves in how we are in these relationships. Somebody comes along and tells you all these things they're going to do and tries to sell you what it is that they can offer or not offer, or what they may come into fruition and then take it away. But if you look at Biderman's work, now we take away the label of that and we go to Biderman's work, it's like these occasional indulgences where they indulge you in what you want. See, the narcissists really do have this con that they're trying to work, that they're trying to lead with. And I think it's important to see them for what they are. That's why those traits that I list are the most popular traits. And the Biderman's work is for you to get a sense of what is going on, and not staying in your anger. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're living in this moment, this exact moment, that's where you can impact change. You can't impact change in the past, and you can't impact change in the future, because this moment is fleeting. You're just living in this moment. So once you start to use language and labels to help you, but not to contain you in a position to where there's no growth. You see, I thought about this, and I wrote, language holds immense wisdom. The way we express ourselves and the labels we use can either hinder our growth and enable us to thrive, or enable us to thrive, sorry. Ultimately, the choice is ours alone. First, we must grapple with the language and uncover its wisdom. So if you're angry, you got to look at your anger. What are you really angry about? What am I angry about? Because that feeling is the body's way of saying to you, something is not right here. And what is that? And if you are sad, what is the sadness about? It's not about staying in those places. It's about, what is that? And so if I'm looking at something and all of a sudden I realize that somebody has taken a situation and given me what they thought a situation was, in this monopolizing my perception of that situation, and now I get something else that tells me that situation is a little bit different, then I need to listen to that. Because the place that we can enact change in all of this is within ourselves. And when we start looking at other people and how they behave, and it's hurtful towards us, in that it's not allowing us to grow, and it's actually hurting us, because the things that Biderman talks about are hurting people. This coercive control is about hurting people. The narcissist is about a person that has been hurt and they're continuing to lash out. And it's not something you can talk to them about. They don't have the same constructs, and it's leveling. You can have somebody that's lightly in narcissism all the way up to the grandiose. And I don't want to get involved in that. That's not my forte, because I feel like that's for other people to work on. Mine is, how do we communicate in this? How do we fix self? Because the only thing that I can tell you for sure is that when I left and when I started doing my work, the right person got a hold of me and said, take care of self. Get to know who you are. You're purely okay exactly where you are. You don't have to earn it, and you don't have to prove it to anyone. And so when I was laying in bed and I was crying and I was filled with grief about how hurt I had been, and I heard myself say, you're a terrible person. I have no idea where that came from. And I started to go into, yeah, terrible person. And I said, no. In that moment, I said, no. And I said, not a terrible person. I'm not going to let people talk to me that way. And I stopped. And then when it happened again, I stopped it again. It's like a muscle. You have to continually try to grow. But when you stay in places and with people who are disrespectful to who you are, when you start to feel and understand what that disrespect looks like, it's what your anger is about, disrespect. Sometimes your sadness is about disrespect, or that you're not cared for. This is where you have to come back into self. Say, I am good enough. I care about me. I care that I'm hurt. I care that I'm angry. What's my anger about? My anger is about being in a society that I grew up in, and nobody talked about it. How come we had the word narcissism since 1870 and we couldn't talk about it? How come? How come we couldn't talk about it in all the time that I was growing up? How come in 1957 did a man figure out from his research that POWs have the same issues as women who've been in domestic violence, or men who've been in domestic violence, suffered from that PTSD? How come from 1957 it wasn't talked enough about so that people could understand it, so people could stop doing it? We need to talk about it so that we don't live in these situations where we're getting tossed around at a church, or we're getting tossed around at in public. We deserve better. Our kids deserve better. And if you're still wanting to do those narcissistic things, those bullying things against other people, look at yourself and how you're behaving. And if that's truly who you want to be, expect to be alone. That's how I feel. You're going to act like that, expect to be alone, because that's what's going to happen to you. And it's what should happen to you. Community is built by people stepping up and stepping in. When I was growing up, we had a business that was a pharmacy. And in that, every Christmas, we get up and have our little bit of Christmas, and then we'd go to the store, and we'd be there to give people their their prescriptions, because some people would be at the hospital and wouldn't be able to get the prescriptions unless we were there. And if we had to deliver it to them, we did. And if people called us in the middle of the night, we went. And why is that? It's because we cared about community. We cared about each other. And it makes me angry to think that kids have had to suffer this long. I grew up in it, and they didn't say anything. They just kept the status quo. When I grew up and had kids, and I kept some of that because I didn't know it was my normal. And I want better. This world deserves better than what we have. And I'm going to keep talking about it. So I hope you enjoyed it. Sorry I got a little tone with me tonight, but when's it going to end? Just want you all to know that no matter where you are, I love and care about you. I wish you the absolute best, and we have to do better. We have to focus on what it looks like so we can take care of it. We don't have to focus on it, so we focus on who they are. They can just live alone by themselves. Take care. Have a good night. See you next week. Keep looking for that sparkle in other people's eyes. I see you. Take care.